I'm the middle sibling of three. I have two brothers. Both of them grew up as scouts. My older brother made it all the way to Eagle Scout, while my younger brother eventually quit during Boy Scouts. For some reason, though, my parents never forced me to become a scout when I was a kid. That always felt strange to me because I remember being extremely jealous of my older brother, Scott. Whenever my mom took me along to Pinewood Derby contests or scout celebrations, I would watch the other kids and wish I was part of it. But the thing I envied the most were the camping trips. The troops would go out into the wilderness and camp for entire weekends. I went along for the drive a couple of times and watched them setting up tents and campfires, but because I was younger and not part of the troop, I wasn't allowed to stay. So I always had to go back home with my parents. Watching Scott prepare for those trips only made me more jealous. Before every camping trip, he'd bring home a tent to practice setting up in our backyard. I was about 7 or 8 years old when I came up with an idea. I asked if we could do our own little camping trip in the backyard, just set up the tent and sleep in it overnight. To my little mind, it sounded like the most exciting adventure in the world. Our backyard actually added to the camping feeling. It wasn't a typical fenced yard. The houses in our neighborhood had huge open yards that blended together, separated only by patches of trees and brush. We also had a fire pit. So our parents played along. They helped us set up the fire pit so we could roast marshmallows and get the full camping experience. My younger brother joined us for marshmallows, but he was only 4 years old at the time, so our parents didn't let him sleep in the tent. Later that night, after it got dark, they brought him inside and told Scott and me it was time to get ready for bed. We climbed into our sleeping bags inside the tent. Back then, the Game Boy SP was the popular handheld console, so Scott and I pulled out our Game Boys and started playing games. I was playing Super Mario Bros. 2, a game I absolutely loved but could never beat as a kid. Eventually, I got tired and tried to fall asleep, but I couldn't. I felt restless, maybe because I had never slept in a sleeping bag before. Honestly, it wasn't very comfortable. A lot of time passed before I finally drifted off. When I woke up, I was confused at first. It took a moment to remember where I was. Then I noticed something. Scott was gone. His sleeping bag was empty. The tent zipper was still closed, though, so I assumed he must have gone inside the house because he couldn't sleep. Suddenly, I felt scared being alone in the tent. I got up and unzipped it slightly. Before crawling out, I peeked outside just to make sure everything was clear. But it wasn't. Someone was sitting by the fire pit. It wasn't Scott. It was a grown man. He was facing the tent, and he had definitely seen me. I gasped and quickly zipped the tent back up, diving into my sleeping bag like it could somehow protect me. I stayed completely still. The tent was almost pitch black, except for faint moonlight shining through the fabric. I thought about calling out for my dad, hoping maybe it was him, but I knew it wasn't. Then I heard the chair by the fire pit move. My heart started pounding. A shadow appeared on the side of the tent, blocking the moonlight. He was right outside. I tried not to move, hoping he would think the tent was empty. Then I heard the zipper slowly sliding downward, just a few inches. There was a small opening. I turned my head slightly. At the bottom of the tent, there was a small gap where the zipper didn't fully seal. I had never noticed it before, but that night, there was an eye pressed against that gap, one eye staring directly at me. I could see the white of it in the darkness. For a few seconds, I couldn't even scream. I was completely frozen. Then the eye squinted slightly, almost like the person was smiling. The zipper moved another inch. That's when I finally screamed. I scrambled backward, kicking out of my sleeping bag and knocking into the tent poles. Immediately, I heard footsteps running across the yard. Then our porch light switched on. My dad burst out the back door yelling and ran toward the fire pit. But by the time he got there, the man was gone. My parents called the police. I don't remember much after that. I just remember sleeping in my parents' bed that night. The experience left me emotionally shaken for weeks. Then, about a month later, something happened that made it even worse. At school, during recess, we were playing a game near the fence that faced the street. While I stood by the fence, a man called at me. "Hey!" I turned. A man was standing on the other side of the fence, asking me for directions. I said I didn't know. Then he asked, "Your name's Chris, right?" My heart dropped. I lied and said no. Then he smiled and said, "You don't remember me, do you?" I immediately ran to a recess supervisor and pointed toward the fence, but the man was already gone. One of the other kids said he saw him too. The school called my parents and I was sent home early. I'm almost certain it was the same man from the backyard. To this day, it still makes my chest tighten thinking about what might have happened if he had gotten into that tent.